Bartlett, War of the Ghosts, Reconstructive Memory and Cultural Schemas Affecting Recall.
Aim was to investigate how memory of a story is affected by previous knowledge, information according to expectations formed by cultural schemas.
Method. Bartlett asks students studying English at Cambridge University to hear a story. Half of them would then reproduce it after a short time and then repeatedly over a period of months or years. This process is called repeated reproduction. The other half were asked to retell the story in a chain of participants, like the childhood game of telephone. The reproductions were written down by the participants. This process is called serial reproduction. Bartlett analyzed the reproductions against the original to see how the story changed in successive reproductions. The story was an unfamiliar Native American legend called the War of the Ghosts.
How details are dropped as they become irrelevant to the participants' schemas for the story. Unfamiliar words were replaced with words more familiar to the English culture. This is called assimilation, and it refers to the process by which new knowledge is made to fit into pre-existing schemas. The story was arranged into a more logical order. This is known as sharpening, and it refers to how the story was changed to make it more culturally familiar, including changes to the narrative structure, details, and emotional states. Bartlett concluded that his participants changed the story to fit their existing knowledge, and that recall differed between the repeated reproduction and serial reproduction conditions. While both techniques led to an error-prone memories, he found that repeated reproduction led to errors mostly in the first reproduction that were then repeated on subsequent reproductions.
Evaluation. The study was a lab experiment and can be criticized for a lack of ecological validity, and there was no control group. But more importantly, Bartlett's method was vague. It was unclear what kind of instructions he gave to participants and whether these were standardized in any way. In spite of these method limitations, the study is one of the most important in the study of memory and shows us how information changes when going through a number of people.
Roediger, 2014, Replicating Bartlett. The lack of replication and empirical validation formed the backbone of criticism against Bartlett over the years, but an experiment by Roediger confirmed Bartlett's observation that serial reproduction leads to greater forgetting of the original material and to greater distortion of the material that actually is recalled. The researchers tightened up Bartlett's method to make it more empirical and scientific by isolating participants to serial reproduction and repeated reproduction conditions, and then testing them using standardized lists of related words. This made the results both more quantifiable and more comparable. Roediger found that serial reproduction leads to more forgetting and more distortion than repeated reproduction. While Roediger results don't support Bartlett's findings that recall is affected by cultural schemas particularly, they do suggest that serial reproduction leads to great distortion. Given the isolation of the experimental conditions, this is presumably due to the social processes involved in serial reproduction, exactly as Bartlett theorized.
Positive correlation between the number of words describing things that are uncommon in England, such as canoe, and the amount of words changed to familiar words to the British culture. Bartlett generalized this correlation by saying that cultural schemas affect recall. Bartlett created the theory that cultural schemas affect recall and that memory is an active process that constantly changes information. He stated that memory is reconstructive. These theories are partly accepted by psychologists. In fact, as discussed previously, Roediger in 2014 replicated his study and supported the idea that serial reproduction was more prone towards distortions in the story, which supports the idea of the existence of the schemas. However, Roediger did not agree on the fact that those schemas are cultural.